The reason they're coming back is because it's the 1 year to the Invictus Games, Jack, which is taking place in Birmingham next year. So they're going to be attending this event in Birmingham. They do this for each Invictus Games, don't they? And we do usually see Meghan on board for these events to support Harry in what is, you know, his greatest project. And so I suppose we shouldn't be surprised that she's taking part in this event. It's just the significance of it being in the UK.
Yes, and they are staying a little bit longer, I think, than they usually spend. Often, because usually it will be 1 day of events. So in Düsseldorf in Germany, that was how it played out. It was 1 day of events and then off. And this time they're spending a substantially longer time than that. Obviously, a lot of Harry's time is going to be spent in Birmingham. It's unlikely he's going to have a meeting with the King there. So we presume that any meeting with the royals will take place in London. And if they're staying at Buckingham Palace, then we won't even get kind of, you know, car shots of them arriving.
We won't be literally looking at the watch as he drives in and as he drives out and calculating just how long or short that meeting was.
Well, that's what we would usually do. But if Harry's staying at Buckingham Palace, then Charles could simply be at Buckingham Palace over the course of the day. We won't necessarily know unless we are told that there's been a meeting between
So
them.
it makes sense, doesn't it, in terms, Samara, of being able to further that sort of reconciliation, which has already begun behind closed doors. And one of the big stumbling blocks towards this has been it getting out in public and the fear of the details being reported and leaked everywhere. If it takes place within palace walls, there's a degree of safety, greater safety in that, isn't there?
Absolutely, but I think it doesn't take into account that some of the leaks can come from within Harry and Meghan's camp, and also, of course, from within the palace camp as well. So I think it is very interesting that they might stay at Buckingham Palace. I think that's all optical for them. I think they want to be seen, at least from the American side, that they're going there, they're being welcomed back into the royal family, they're able to then cachet off that brand and bring it back to the States and continue what they're doing with this 1 foot in, 1 foot out royal life that, may I remind you, the Queen did not want to happen. It was one of her last things that she said. She didn't want them to be coming to Britain for a couple of days, then scooting back off to Montecito. So it's very interesting that the King, and I think it is because of the grandchildren, has said, okay, this is fine. And I think he does really want to meet them. And we know that there are rumours that that's a condition of the visit and the stay. So yeah, we don't know that Harry and Meghan might not be getting more content or more fodder for their next special. There are even rumours that the Diana documentary might play some part in this, the one that they might option off to Netflix.
What about the security aspects of this? Because that's still ongoing, Jack. And Harry's previously said, well, I can't bring my wife and children. I'm desperate to bring my children back. I want them to know more about my home country. Of course, Charles has only met Lilibet on one occasion.
Yeah, exactly.
Around her first birthday, the Queen's Platinum Jubilee.
Yeah, they've barely stepped foot in Britain. I mean, Archie was born here, but obviously he was a baby, so he's not going to remember that. But what they get with a royal residence is they get a level of umbrella security baked in. So if, let's say, for example, that it is Buckingham Palace, it might not be, but if it is, Buckingham Palace has very, very solid, not just police protection, but also actual army soldiers protecting it. So nothing's going to happen to them when they're staying at Buckingham Palace. It's an incredibly safe place for them to be. Now, if you look back to the Platinum Jubilee, which was the last time they brought the kids over to Britain, and they were staying at Frogmore Cottage, they had an offer of police protection to cover their attendance at royal events for which they had an invitation and nothing else. And so what Harry and Meghan then did is they just didn't do anything else aside from going to a couple of Platinum Jubilee events.
They had Lilibet's first birthday party, didn't they, in the grounds?
In Frogmore, yeah. So they had Lily's birthday in Frogmore and they just didn't leave the house apart from that. So that might be the blueprint, that basically they don't take the kids out of whatever royal residence they're put in, and therefore they effectively do have police protection because of the nature of the building that they're in.
What do you make of the suggestion by some that this is part of the emotional blackmail by Harry around his security battle?
Well, I think probably there has been a little bit of that over the years. I don't know that this is the high point of it. I think probably the high watermark of Harry's kind of emotional blackmail was perhaps May 2025, not that long ago, when Harry finally lost his court cases and came out saying that all he needed was for the king to get out of the way and stop blocking the experts from doing their job, which I thought was very unfair of him. But yeah, no, he has at points really like turned the screws on the king and tried to effectively emotionally blackmail the king in an effort to force the monarchy to give him back his police protection in a context where the monarchy says it's actually not our choice,
decision.
it's not our decision. We must leave it to the Home Office and the police to decide. And actually, if you go through the filings, the documents from those court cases that Harry filed, it's very easy to see where the police are coming from. You know, Harry chose to he had that police protection because of a particular role he had as a working royal. He stepped down from that role and he then left Britain to go and live in another country. So obviously they had to stop, take a breath and think about what that would mean. So the civil servants and police went off and looked at the whole thing and said, well, Harry is at risk. They never said that he wasn't at risk.
He's the king's son. He can't change that. He has no choice.
He has no choice over it. There was no dispute over whether Harry was at risk. He was, but they said, well, he's not doing the job of being a working royal family member anymore. So he doesn't get police protection because of his role. And police protection is offered to people who live in Britain. And he's now moved out physically of the cohort of people who receive it. And so that prompted them to look at what they might do instead. And they created a bespoke system where he does sometimes get police protection depending on what he's doing.
Case by case.
Case by case. Like, it's not unreasonable. It's not an unreasonable position for the government to have taken. And for Harry to try and blame it all on his father is deeply personally emotional, and it is emotional blackmail.
And that's been one of the problems in terms of reconciliation, hasn't it? The other one is with his brother. We can talk about the kind of wider public reaction they might get when they come back. But what about with William and Catherine? What does Harry and Meghan's return say for them? How do they feel about it, do we think? And what does it mean in terms of those family relations?
I think that William and Catherine are furious about this, and I think that it's almost like Harry and Meghan are coming back after all the terrible things have happened in the last 5 years or so, and they're just coming back for the good part, you know, where William has had to hold so much on his back, the cancer diagnosis of his father, then his wife, you know, the death of the Queen, that all these things have happened. And, you know, the royal family was skeletal at one point. They really didn't even have enough working members to send around to different events and different things like that. And the brand was...
a gaping hole where Harry and Meghan should have been.
Yes, totally. And the brand was suffering massively. And then, of course, on top of that, you had all the Andrew stuff, which completely, again, was like another massive bullet to the royal family and their reputation. And it seems like Harry and Meghan are just coming back after all that's washed away. And I think that's going to be a major problem, not to mention all the different crosstalk and cross-advising that's been happening. I just think that Harry and Meghan are being very opportunistic. They're using the final years of the king being alive in order to get their foot back in the door. And because they know that after that, it's not going to happen. If William is king, they're not coming back.
Can we not see that, though, as, you know, the king is ill and this is a son who thinks, actually, you know, I do want to spend time with my father and I desperately want my children to know him.
I think Harry's had a reckoning. It is all of those things, but there's another dimension to it, which, you know, you mentioned the disintegration of the Sussexes in America, and I think Harry has actually, there are some signs that he has realised that he was wrong about some stuff, you know, including him talking about the way he sees the media. There's been, you know, he went on at the Deal Book New York Times summit and said that actually, you know, he tries not to read the media anymore, which is the advice that his father gave him. Charles told him, just don't read it, darling boy. And I think he realised...
And certainly don't read all the comments.
And certainly don't read all the comments,
which
exactly.
we know that is what they were doing.
And so they've been humbled in America. Charles has now become ill, and the Queen's passed away. You know, Harry has been forced to consider the mortality of members of his family. He'd already lost Philip. And now he's staring down the barrel of having very little in America. He's completely lost interest in his American life. He's not said anything positive about America since about February 2024. Ever since Trump got re-elected, he has zero interest in the country he's moved to, more interested in Canada and Australia than he is in America, but particularly
Which
more
could,
interested
of
in
course,
Britain.
have been places that
That
they could have
moved
carved
to.
out a life and
They
a
could
role
easily
for
have moved
themselves.
to either country. Obviously, Australia loves Harry and Meghan, don't they?
Yes. No, but I do think the success of that trip was, in some ways, it was successful in some ways. So I think that did pave the way for them saying, okay, Britain might be okay to come back to.
Absolutely. And,
So, yeah.
and I do think that, I don't think this is Harry and Meghan wanting to kind of come back and just do this one little thing and get a PR boost. I think Harry might want to move back here in a more permanent way. Well, he just...
I mean, I can't see... It's a nice life they've got, though, in California, isn't it? We've
Then
seen him surfing and...
Why wind down your charity? They've wound down Archwell, so it was running its own programs, and they're not doing that
Did
anymore.
Archwell not wind down itself?
Well,
I do think when you look at Archwell, the crumbling of the Spotify deal, the Netflix deal coming to a close, as you say,
so
the
they've
Jam
got...
company not doing very well at all, and the other podcast, Confessions of a Female Founder, Meghan's businesses are... This is why I find this timing all very suspicious, but...
suspicious is one way to kind of put a
But you're right
spin
about
on
the
it.
reckoning.
Like it's one person suspicious is another person's them finally accepting reality. I don't think there's necessarily subterfuge there. I just think that they've been forced to confront the fact that what they thought was going to happen when they moved to America has not happened. And in Meghan's case, she's still got Doria. She grew up in America. It's her country. But I think Harry's now thinking, wait a minute, this is not what I was sold. And it has substantially fallen apart. But also, Harry has had cachet with the public his entire life. He's been one of the most famous people in Britain his entire life, and now America doesn't care about him. And I think this is his first experience of that. I don't think he's ever known what it felt to be just ignored, not even hated.
And I think there's still a large degree of affection for him in this country, no matter what, particularly around the Invictus Games.
Even hatred is a form of affection.